the global market is mainly dominated by suppliers which are coming mainly from outside Europe. And Europe is, and especially innovation, is with important ICT products. And so Europe is somehow depending on the supply chain on many elements which are coming from outside. The European market is also quite fragmented. And also we see that very often the research money which put by the Commission doesn't reach the market or is too slow. The process is very slow in Brussels. For those who know Brussels, it's understatement. Also in Europe, we have a very weak entrepreneurial culture, a lack of venture capital. Think that in the US last year, there has been something like $4 billion of capital venture investment for the startups. In Europe, we are something like around $100 million. So 4 billion, 100 million. That's a big difference. Different, really completely different culture. And also there is sovereignty issues, very important in Europe. We are still 28 member states, each one with their own approach, each one with the fact that they don't want to share information because information is sensitive. It's much more sensitive. Somehow cybersecurity is more sensitive than defense. Europe is building up a defense approach. Now with research and with a lot of money on the defense side, still have a lot of problem to share information on, even on the, let's say, on the security side, fight against terrorism and so on. Because, once again, it's linked to sovereignty. Sovereignty of the information, but also sovereignty of the technology. So, once we made this analysis, we said, okay, what are the strategic objectives? First of all, of course, protection of the infrastructure and the services from cyber threat. Then, also, what can be done? What's coming up is the use of data to increase the overall security. This is linked to big data, analytics, and which really can help in the fight against crime, but also fight against terrorism. We also said there should be an increased digital autonomy of Europe. We cannot fully depend. We cannot reinvent the wheel. We cannot reinvent everything, but something. We could do something. Europe should master a little bit more certain components. It's the strategic component. We cannot fully depend from technology coming from outside. So we need a trusted supply chain. We can, of course, we can import a lot of technology, but this supply chain also should be fully trusted and verified. So it's important also to have investment where Europe has a clear leadership. It's not only a matter to increase the cybersecurity market of European companies in Europe, or to increase the turnover of European companies. It's a matter to protect, first of all, the economy of Europe. And the economy of Europe is made by companies like Airbus, like the car manufacturers, like all the many other, the chemical sector and so on, and the energy, which are not only vital, but also very vital for the job, for the employment, but also for the service they provide. But they are really, we have in Europe world leader in manufacturing, for instance, that have to be protected. You know, Industry 4.0, you know, the approach proposed by the Germans, and you know the many other aspects of the digitalization of the European industry, which is moving on, which is creating a lot of wealth, but also a lot of potential threat. We have to protect this. So, of course, there's a lot of SMEs also in Europe, like everywhere, but in Europe we have many SMEs and still working in a very fragmented way. We have local competence, and so we have to help this growing and support this local competence and increase the competitiveness. So this was the analysis 1 year ago. What has changed? Not that much of this analysis, but as I told you at the very beginning, we have an evolution of the awareness at national and European level. We have also evolution of threats, like all the time, you know, the Mirai problem with the camera. And this is actually just starting, just an example of what could happen with the IoT. You know, the IoT if you read the Gartner study, it's something like, they say, 20 billion devices in 2020. An independent study of the US government say in 2020 is between 25 and 100 billion devices in 2020. So it's who will be able to control all this? Almost impossible. But something should be done, otherwise we get stuck. And so, positive thing also, there is, at least in Europe, an evolution of the public-private dialogue, thanks also to what we're doing. And the Europe has decided to have a new European cybersecurity strategy to come out by the end of this year, where they envisage also to have large projects and higher funding on cybersecurity. So there are good news. Well, okay, maybe as time is going fast, I don't want to spend much time, but I mentioned already the digitalization of the society and the need for increase of security, because this will impact all the economic level. We need still also to be sure that we control and we know who is the owner of the data. And then we have two big trends. One of the centralized information, the SOC, so where we want to have the information centralized, to have a better view of how security, well, to prevent but also detect and respond to the threat, to cyber threat at centralized level. This is somehow linked to the big national authorities' need of forensic and so on. But also we need some distributed security, because with the IoT, with the 5G, with the cloud, we will have a lot of distributed problem. And this problem cannot be solved at centralized level. It should be solved, you know the concept of the mobile edge computing. The data is distributed, is there, is local, and the reaction should be local. You can, when you're driving an autonomous car, you cannot wait for somebody somewhere in your capital taking the control off. There should be someone there avoiding the problem with your autonomous car that maybe will be hacked. So it's a new architecture, it's a new evolution of the threat, and also of the environment itself. So you see in the bottom it's a bit more technical, but really we are moving to something more virtualized network. We are going to software-defined security and more security as a service, and all this somehow there is a overall chapeau, overall hat, with a lot of artificial intelligence. So we are reviewing also these days this strategy, an update of our initial elements with the Commission. We made a kind of quick pest analysis for the Commission, and still we recognize similar elements like last year, but we wanted to stress the need for higher education and training and awareness, and also from the technological point of view, which are clearly elements like the data, which Europe would like to keep in our frame, the problem of IoT security, the impact of the 5G, the encryption for privacy and data security, the analytics, and all the DLT technology, which can not only use for bitcoins, but also we are progressively used for many other applications with all the security threats that could come. So overall, we said, okay, in this PPP, what we want to do, we want to protect the digital single market, to protect also the growth of the European economy. We want to protect the European countries and the vital services. That's really a security, a pure security target. We want to protect the citizens, because all of us are participating already today in the digital world. And we want to grow, to help the growth of the cybersecurity market and the competitiveness of our industry. Now, this is the global view. Let me give you some elements of this partnership. The EXO, as I said, is an association. It's composed by different kinds of members. We have large companies, associations, SMEs, operators, regional administration. It's very important, the regional aspects. We were forgetting this at the very beginning, because usually we look only at the national aspects with discussion with the company and so on. But Europe is made by local issues, by regions. That's Europe. And so we need to, and the implementation of real life is not decided, yes, maybe there are regulations decided in Brussels, maybe there are laws decided in the capitals, but at the end of the story, the real life is local. And for this reason, we are starting a big cooperation at local level with the region, with the cities, with the, let's say the local aspects. Sometimes local is also Estonia. Estonia is considering 1,300,000 inhabitants, like a big region, but okay. But they want to participate to these regional aspects, you know. So we are really trying to take into consideration really not only the big decision from Brussels, but really the local aspects. And of course, the research centers and the academic university. And as I said before, also the public administration. Okay, I said before about security, national prerogative. This is today the situation with the members. So we have members from 27 different countries. These countries are countries of the European Union, but not only, because for the Commission decision of the European Commission, we also have to include those countries who can participate at your Horizon 2020 program. So for this reason, also we have Israel, we have Norway, we have Switzerland. So we have a bit more than that. And this is the complex scheme of our organization. For those who understand French, we call it the usine à gaz. C'est une usine à gaz. So it means it's very complex. But, you know, usine à gaz means gas factory with all the pipes, you know, very complex. But also gas factory have to work and to perform. And this is exactly what we try to do, because cybersecurity is not easy at all. It's not a simple topic. So at the very bottom, you have the different members, kind of category of members I just mentioned before. We have created 6 working groups. We have a strategy committee with a board of directors, and then we have some advisor at high level to dialogue with the European Commission. Now I would like to stress, just to pinpoint the name of this working group, because we have on the very right, we have the working group on the research. So we are giving, this working group is working on to provide the Commission with priority on research. But then we have 5 other working groups which are dealing with what we call cybersecurity industrial policy. So how we grow, how we provide some structure of the market, which will be able, of the ecosystem, it's a nice word, we use it a lot in Brussels, too much. How we provide how we help the market to absorb this innovation. So for this reason, we have a standardization and certification and labeling. We have the investment working group, or international cooperation as well. We have the third working group is on the market verticals, so the different aspects which are dealing with transport, energy, industry 4.0, health, e-government, and so on. Then we have also the support to SMEs and region, the education training, cyber range and awareness, very important. And then also I said, so all this, we try really to tackle all these different working groups. Each working group is tackling their own sector, but there are a lot of links between the working groups. So we try to create some sharing of the, we will share the information and try to grow together the different aspects. This is somehow a summary of the view of the strategy that we have today, that we are updating today. Somehow the priority where we want to invest is in technologies. We want to invest in infrastructure for use in all sectors. Infrastructure are what we know, that the 5G or the cloud and so on, and the application, the specific verticals, and the support to the ecosystems. So I don't want your word. You can recognize more or less the same wording or typical topics that you can read in many cybersecurity or ICT publications, so I don't want to spend much time here. I would like to spend the last minutes of my presentation on the Educational Warning and Training Exercise Working Group, is the 5. In this working group, we started this working group some months ago, but still is looking for what to do. It's very important, it will become very important working group in the second half of this year under the Estonian presidency of the Union, because Estonians are very keen on what is training and cyber ranges and so on. So I'm sure this will grow in importance in Europe, but for the time being, we realize that education in Europe is scattered. Each country is doing more or less. Some are doing nothing or very little. Some are doing more, already at low school level, which is good. Some are doing nothing at all. What is interesting also that the European Commission is recognizing that this is education is a very important topic, but there is no budget at European level for this. And so that's the reason why we say, okay, you heard about the Erasmus program. I say, why don't we do a cyber Erasmus? That could help. That could be a beginning. It's not a huge amount of money, but we start with that. And also in the different countries, what we see is that there is education, there is investment from the private sector, because the private sector, as I said at the beginning, they need experts. I hear our big companies say, we have a lot of business to do, we have a lot of potential business to do, but we miss the people. We cannot do the business because we miss the people. And I forgot to put in the picture. I was in Israel the end of January, and you see there was also a big conference there, the big annual conference. You go around at the exhibition and you see a lot of companies say, we hire. On the booth, we hire. Desperately looking for people, for experts. And so we need more education from school level. We need also training, certification of the trained people, of course. And this possibly we would like to do more at European level. And for this reason, what we have proposed at the last board of directors is the creation of European cybersecurity network to develop education, training, and jobs. The creation of job, as you know, it's very high political target at national level, but also at European level. And we realized that in our association, we have all the big players in Europe. They are doing already, as I said before, activity and investing at national level. But for the time being, it's somehow everybody on his own. So why don't we start putting together these people who are doing already something. Let's start with some sharing of best practices. Let's see what they're doing. Let's compare. Let's try to analyze what is their need. Try to really verify how big is the need in Europe. The immediate need, not the future, the immediate need. And we see if we can really have some added value, create some added value through this. So, and I mentioned about the companies, and the companies can be the supplier, but also the user. I was in another recent meeting on the energy sector with big European energy operators, and they said, we need to create our own department of cybersecurity. We need 200 people. Where are 200 people? 200 people is a lot today. The German Ministry of Defense, they just created in Germany a first batch of, they started first batch of experts in cybersecurity. They started with 250 cyber defense, with 250 people at a German level. So it's already in Europe, for Europe, a few hundreds of experts is a lot. You can imagine if we have to go to this 900,000 job that the European Commission was mentioning. So we would like to use our, let's say, to start from our members, to bring them together, and of course, it's more members will join, and more we will have fun, and try to develop this network and see how much this network can really foster the harmonization of this education, of the training, but also of the awareness. The awareness is important at citizens level. We have to be more knowledgeable of the threat that we have as a citizen, cyber hygiene, if you prefer, but also the decision maker at procurement level, at the company level, and also, as I said before, the decision maker at political level, which have really to support and understand that each country and Europe has to invest on education and training, because this will be the future. It's not only, there are not simple words. The future is not tomorrow. The future is already today. When we started in our objective for the PPP, we had some objectives. Let's say in 2-3 years, we want to be there. After a few months, the objective in 2-3 years became, we have to be there actually in 6 months. The time is stretching, you know. I don't know, maybe traveling at the speed of light. It's relativity, for those who knows restricted relativity, Einstein. So the time is compressed. No, actually, it's the opposite. The time is delayed. It's sorry, that's a stupid. I'll try to go back to my physics. The time is slowing down when you go at speed of light. So we are going very light, very slow, and actually the time is compressing. So that's the reality of the story. And so for closing my speech, I would really encourage you to continue in your path, because I think that the choice you have made, more or less consciously, it's a very interesting choice. It's the future. It's the future for you, for your career, but it's the future for our society, because it will become more and more depending on ICT in general, and be more and more fragile because of this cyber threat. So the society has to count on you and to your skill and to solve all these future problems, because today life is easy. Tomorrow will be much, much more complex. Thank you.
Thank you, Luigi. I think this was a lot of motivation in your words, and a lot of information which we can consider when we are getting the next scenario. And then the last but not least keynote for this tonight is about the NATO. What is happening in the NATO cyber defense? I think tomorrow that's going to be one of the burning questions. What is the role of NATO? How it can be used in solving the problems this next scenario is causing. And I have the pleasure to welcome Ambassador Dukaru. He is the Assistant Secretary General for Emerging Security Challenges. You are welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. Let me congratulate GCSP and